Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be reviewing my custom LEGO Transformer. Now, before we get into this video, please remember to like, comment and subscribe if you want to see more LEGO Transformers. So getting into the video, this guy is an original Transformer I created based on the game No Man's Sky. Now, this guy isn't really based on any specific spaceship from the game, however, it does take some concepts from each different ship, as there's quite a few that you can choose from. And it's more inspired just by their general design rather than one specific ship. And I've also been asking for names for this guy, so here's the name I decided to go with. So thanks to the TF reviewer for this name suggestion, as I think this does fit the character. Now, the reason I say this is because this guy definitely seems more like a small, maneuverable ship that could be deployed from one of the freighters. So thanks again for everyone's name suggestions, and obviously don't be too upset if yours wasn't chosen. But anyways, I think it's time we get into the build. So here he is in his spacecraft mode, and in my opinion, this looks pretty cool. And if you've seen the spaceships in No Man's Sky, you can definitely see the inspiration here, as they are full of weird and wacky designs that for the most part are not symmetrical, which is why I've gone for such a crazy design here. I also think the small blue highlights work pretty well, and here he is compared to a satellite, just so you can see how big he is, which he is actually quite small for one of my LEGO Transformers. I have added a slight gun here, which can fit one of these fire effects, which actually does look pretty nice. And as you can see, he is quite small, like I said, as he's probably around a deluxe size in terms of his mass overall. And here's the stand, which I actually made quite quickly, and it's not really important as you can't really use it in robot mode anyway. But I think that's enough for this spaceship mode, so it's on to the transformation. So for the first step in the transformation, we come to the back of the spaceship, and we're just going to be rotating around this panel that you can see here. And this panel is going to become his thigh armor. And for another smaller step, we can just rotate around this red curved piece, as these are going to be his shoulder plates. And now for the limbs. So we might as well start with the legs, as they do just fold away on ball joints. So there's the first leg, and the other one does form the gun section I spoke about earlier, so we can just unfold it on the ball joint once again. And we'll leave the legs for now, as we'll work on the main body. So coming to the bottom of the ship, we can unfold his other shoulder piece. And since the other main body steps will be easier with him standing up, we might as well finish the legs. So you do just rotate around at the ball joint at the knee for the first leg. Now, this other leg is slightly more complicated, but first we can finish the foot, so it just rotates around on the ball joint at the ankle. Once this is done, he should be able to stand up now. So for his collar section, this piece does just rotate up on the stud. And once this is done, it'll give us some clearance to rotate around the arms at this hinge section. This will also form the shoulder pads. So that is the first arm in place. So for the second arm, we can just take the collar piece and move it around on the stud, just like we did with the first one. And like the first arm, we can just take it and rotate it down, as it's just on the same hinge assembly. So that is the shoulders in place. Now, before we hinge together the entire torso, we can just rotate around this little side panel, as only one of them was used for the alt mode, as he was asymmetrical. But now this will give us clearance to rotate around the entire torso panel, and this will form his chest. So to finish up on the leg, we can hinge out this engine piece, and once this is done, this will give us the clearance to tab in the solar panel piece to the studs you can see there, and this will lock the entire leg together. So for this arm, we can just rotate around at the ball joint, and that is it finished. But for the other one, we do have an extra step. So for the bottom wing piece, we can just compress it onto the side of the shoulder. And we can also rotate down the arm, as it is just on a ball joint, just like the other one. So before we fold the head up, we might as well finish the collar pieces, as they should just double hinge into place. as they are on that stud, as well as the bar piece. And that is them for the robot mode configuration. So now, like I said, it's time to rotate up the head assembly. And here he is in his robot mode. And in my opinion, this guy is actually looking pretty cool. And he's definitely my favorite build I've done in a while. Unfortunately, his superhero landing doesn't quite work as his arms are slightly too short, but for most poses he actually works quite well. And even with the kibble on the back of the leg, both of them can still do 90-degree bends. I have decided to throw in a gun here, as I think it just looks cool with this character. And you can take the flame effect from earlier and plug it into the barrel of the gun, which does look pretty cool. Also included a sword with this guy, as he is pretty dynamic, and the only thing he's really missing is a waist joint, which, just due to how he transforms, was just a little too hard to add, as he just kept falling apart, and I didn't want to add articulation to compromise the transformation, so I think it's still pretty cool here. And he definitely has a very unique looking robot mode. I also like the way how his chest kind of rotates around, as obviously it was in the vertical position for the alt mode. So here he is with Legacy Kickback, and he is slightly shorter, but he still looks pretty cool, and he definitely gives space kind of Ironhide vibes here. And he does have quite a similar color scheme to Ironhide anyway. So to go over some Robo Mode details, we might as well start with most people's favorite detail, which is the Creo logo. And for a space character, this actually works quite well with that transparent blue background, as it fits all the other transparent blue that is on the sky. I think the head here works quite well, as I've gone for more of a space visor look, which is why I've used the chisel piece. I also like how this arm has one of the thrusters that was on the spaceship mode. And I do like some of the transparent blue that was revealed on that right leg, but on the left one you can see how the satellite piece does just clip onto the side, as well as the back engine thrusters, which does look pretty nice here. And there are components of the gun on each leg. As you can see, the main part of the gun here, but the smaller part that actually shoots is on the other leg, which works quite nicely. And it does give him some nice spaceship detailing here in his robot mode. I also do like how clean the back is, as there's not really any kibble here that shouldn't be there. And these wing sections, even if one of them did come from the bottom of the ship, do look quite nice here. And here's a close-up of the gun that I mentioned earlier. And here's the more simple shoulder that was just formed out the side of the spacecraft, but it does work quite well for a slightly slimmer arm with a more shielded piece here. And it still works quite nicely for the posability, as it doesn't compromise any of the elbow articulation. And I do think the silhouette here for the chest piece does work quite well, as I like the angled design of it. And here's the other slightly more slender arm, but obviously they can both hold the gun piece as well as the sword. This other shoulder does include the real wing piece that was at the bottom of the ship, rather than the fake one that is on the shoulder pieces, but I think the design still works pretty well, even if it does have some fake parts. And for one final close-up, here is the head, which, like I said, is kind of spacesuit inspired, which is why I've went for the blue visor. And yeah, that is just about it for this review. So if you've enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all for the next video.